Welcome, everybody, to a special post-game edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I'm your host, Art Stapleton, coming to you from MetLife Stadium. We are in one of the radio booths here in the press box, and this was one of those games where you think you know what was going to happen, and I picked the Eagles to win the game, but I certainly didn't think it was going to play out like this. 28-3, the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley over the New York Giants. And a lot of questions after this one. Sometimes you get these lingering issues from week to week, and you start looking at it and feeling, you know what happened here? How did this season go awry? Awry. There you go. As you can tell, I'm a little tongue-tied. I'm at this point, spending my wedding anniversary with my lovely wife. I'm here at MetLife witnessing the disaster that was the Giants today and trying to get out of here so I can go and spend a little bit of time of our anniversary. So happy anniversary to my wife. And it's an anniversary for the New York Giants. The first time they get to see Saquon Barkley in another uniform, and things did not go well. But there's going to be a big picture about Saquon and what this meant and how this is not a referendum on the Giants' decision to not re-sign Saquon. Okay? That is the reality, regardless of what Saquon Barkley did today. Now, obviously, it's nice to get a little revenge if you're Saquon Barkley. You want to feel that the Giants said you didn't have anything left in the tank, or you weren't worth the money that you signed with the Eagles, and you came here and you led a dominant performance on the scoreboard, 179 yards rushing for Saquon, and essentially was on the sideline for the fourth quarter. If Nick Sirianni was as big of a jerk as he's been and as big of a jerk as Giants fans say he is, he would have left Saquon in there long enough to get 200 yards rushing and to really rub it in. He did not. They went to the tush push and got touchdowns for Jalen Hurts inside the 5, where they could have easily just handed it off to Saquon and tried to get other touchdowns. So from that perspective, you want to talk about respect, disrespect. Saquon Barkley could have done a heck of a lot more to make this personal today than what he actually did. After the game, Saquon giving hugs to a lot of different people from the Giants. And look, this wasn't personal as much as they've made it out to be. At least we have made it out to be. And I didn't make it as personal as some others. But the reality is, the big picture, when people are just going to swoop in and talk about this game and what it means to the Giants, they're going to laugh at Joe Shane. They're going to laugh at everything that played out in Hard Knocks. They're going to laugh at how could the Giants get rid of Saquon Barkley, their best player, and look what he did to them. He got revenge. That's going to be the headlines. So Giants fans, if you don't have the stomach for that, you may want to just dive into baseball. If you're a Yankees fan, you could focus on the World Series. If you're a Mets fan, you can get out there on Sunday night, root for the Mets, and then you hope that you get to Game 7 and somehow you pull off what some people believe is impossible, and winning 6 and 7 in LA and get to the World Series, make it a Subway Series, because then less people around here will be focused on your New York Giants. But I'm here to tell you, this is not about Saquon Barkley. This game, anyone who tells you this is about Saquon Barkley is not paying attention to what's going on with the New York Giants. The current regime of the Giants has reached a critical juncture. They are 2-5. This is not about the record, although 2-5 is certainly not good. This is about what's transpired here at MetLife Stadium in front of the home fans the last 2 weeks. Yes, you can go all the way back to the first 2 home games. The game against Minnesota was ugly, but they overcame that with wins in Cleveland and Seattle. The Dallas game was not good for this team, but they overcame that in Seattle. 2 weeks ago, They were leaving Seattle on a plane feeling very good about themselves. At 2-3, they had an opportunity to come home in prime time against the Bengals and then this week against the Eagles and really go after a division that has seemingly been in play. And they have not done that. They scored 7 points and 3 points. That's 10 total points in this league. It's almost like if you expected, in high school football, if there was a high school football team that didn't like their coach, they'd come out and perform this way. This isn't about whether they like Brian Daboll or fighting for Brian Daboll's job. This is a critical point for this offense. They are clearly not getting things done with this quarterback. And I know a lot of you will listen and want to defend Daniel Jones. He is who he is, and he is not getting any better. And this offense is not getting any better. They lost Andrew Thomas. Josh Azudu comes in at left tackle, and somehow it's almost like a Jenga puzzle. You pull out one piece, and that was Andrew Thomas, and then everything falls apart. 8 sacks today. I think it was 11 quarterback hits. Daniel Jones is running for his life. He's got no calm to his game, no poise in the pocket. And the play that I ended up writing about in my column, which I thought was really symptomatic, emblematic of what went wrong for the Giants, is that there was the play that Daniel Jones, in their own end, sidestep pressure, kind of created that clean pocket for himself outside of the pocket, came to his left, saw Darius Slayton open up into a void in the defense, was wide open. There were no defenders on Slayton's back waiting to drill him at the sticks, which is what, can we throw Wan'Dale Robinson open at some point? He's in the slot because you're supposed to throw him open. You're not supposed to let him run to the sticks and get drilled from behind and then pray that he can hold on to the football. That didn't happen. But the throw to Slayton, Jones completely misses him, throws behind him. Slayton has to reach behind him, can't make the grab. The people who are defending Daniel Jones say another drop for Slayton. The people who criticize Daniel Jones are saying, I can't believe he misfired. The reality is that play is really a symptom of what's going on with the Giants right now. And this offense is not functioning. They have 1 touchdown at home here. They scored a total of 10 points the last 2 weeks against 2 teams that they had every reason to be competing with right to the end of the game and win these games. These are winnable games for the Giants. But when you look at the fourth quarter and the way things panned out, this was the first time that you truly felt, at least I truly felt, that the foundation of what's been built here by Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen is in question a little bit. Now, I'm not saying Daboll is in danger of firing his job, of losing his job. It's funny. You're on social media, and I get private messages all the time through the game. I don't know why fans think that they can private message me and think that, we're going to have a one-on-one conversation as I'm trying to work and, do the job. But they do anyway, so you get messages. And, what are the odds that Daboll's going to be fired? And, what's going to happen now and all this stuff. The reality is they are 2-5. 2 weeks ago, they had a semblance of a season. They beat a team in Seattle without Malik Neighbors, and all of a sudden you look at it and you say 2 weeks later it's 2-5 and the season's over. Well, that happens very quick. It's a snap in this league. And if you don't have the right foundation, you're not going to be able to handle things when the storm comes through. And the Giants are in the middle of a storm right now. They are. They're 2-5. Their quarterback can't function. The offensive line just imploded. They have Malik Neighbors, who they weren't able to get the ball in the second half. Their running game was nothing. They have the reminder of what their running game used to be with Saquon Barkley. And let's be honest. That's what Saquon was with the Giants at times when he was really, really good. He had a 55-yarder. He had a 38-yarder. The 38-yarder came when Dexter Lawrence wasn't on the field. It's important to point out, he still gives Saquon the credit for breaking off the run, but he went right into the hole where Dexter Lawrence would have been, sprung free, and then went for 38. But Saquon had a good game. Make no mistake. Jalen Hurts, I think he threw 4 passes in the second half. Brian Burns is playing on one leg. Dexter Lawrence is still not 100%. Burns is gutting it out. And for the Giants to do what they did offensively, again, it's one thing to point fingers at players. It's one thing to point fingers at coaches. But I asked Brian Daboll in his post-game press conference, and that to me is the most damning thing for this entire operation right now, is that they know explosive plays are a problem. You need to create explosive plays in order to win in this league. The longest pass play today was 14 yards. 14 yards! Last week it was 15. 0 explosive plays. When you build your entire offseason around creating explosives, and Daboll even said it, if you watch the press conference, he had that, you can see it, that he's feeling it behind the scenes. We have the players to take advantage of explosive plays, and they're just not doing it. He's not pointing his finger at Daniel Jones. Putting Drew Lock in and taking Daniel Jones out with about 12 minutes to play was not a benching situation. Daboll already said Daniel Jones will be the quarterback in Pittsburgh for next Monday night. But the fact remains, the Giants don't have a quarterback that you need to have to win games in this league when you're structured the way they are. And that's a problem. And it's a problem that will carry into next season. The difference now is, can this foundation that has been built, you can't let it shake to the ground. And I truly believe that. I've been adamant, saying it on here, in my coverage, on social media, that I don't believe Brian Daboll or Joe Shane's jobs have been at stake. What happened today against Saquon Barkley, yeah, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for John Mara. But you're not talking job security because of what Saquon did. That decision was made in March. That decision was not made this week. John Mara has gotten to the point where Joe Shane made that decision. They made the decision as an organization, and they moved forward. The reality is you have to have a foundation that could withstand this right now. You are now 2-5. You are going to Pittsburgh for a Monday night game that is not going to be easy to play. Now, one thing is great. Giants play their best ball away from MetLife Stadium. So maybe this team finds a way to rally. But Brian Burns' groin is an issue. It's a concern, a big concern. The guy gave everything he had today. To lose the way they lost is a tough pill to swallow, as I said. But this offense, you can't keep running out the same players and say, well, we just have these plays that we're not hitting, but Daniel's going to be the starter. You can't do that. So you have one of two issues. Either you put Daniel Jones on the sideline and you bring in Drew Lock and give him a week and give him time with the first team. Certainly wasn't easy today coming in that situation when you're not working during the week with the first team. We saw what happened with Tommy DeVito last year. Drew Lock is getting no first-team reps. Hasn't gotten first-team reps since the spring with this offense. And he comes in, fumbles the first snap, picks it up, fires to Wan'Dale Robinson, 2-yard loss, and then it's kind of misfired over the rest of the game. You're not bringing in Drew Lock. Yes, Brian Daboll said he wanted a spark. The reality is you're putting Daniel Jones on the sideline because it just wasn't working. And you don't want to risk Daniel Jones getting injured late in the fourth quarter of a game that's away. Now, that's not an easy position to be in. Brian Daboll hasn't had many of these games where you put up the white flag in the fourth quarter, you still compete, but now your effort is on the line. The team's effort is on the line. The reason Dable came out of last year with the confidence of ownership and the front office is that the Giants battled. They fought for him. They didn't have games like this at home. They didn't have games where at the end of the season you were looking at players and saying, did they quit? Did they quit? Did they quit? You're now going to have to face that going forward. This team can't quit. You have too many young players that need to look at veterans. That's why I mentioned the Brian Burns situation. And I'll have something on that, I think, tomorrow. But the reality is Brian Burns could have packed it up in the second quarter today. I mean, the guy's playing on one leg. I walked out of the locker room behind him today. He could barely walk. Reminds me of a toddler who doesn't want to go to the bathroom. And not to be graphic, but anyone who has kids or has a younger brother or sibling or seen a baby, you're trying to go to the bathroom and, you got that toddler who's holding it, who doesn't want to go in the diaper, doesn't want to go get potty trained, just wants to hold on to it. And you kind of get that waddle, that penguin waddle. That was the way Brian Burns looked, not only on the field, but leaving the stadium today. I would be shocked if he's on the practice field before Saturday of this week. You got to keep that guy getting treatment. Burns is a huge part of this defense. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence is as well. Dexter, 9 sacks. I haven't seen the stats at this point, but he leads the league in sacks. This defense deserves better. Jalen Hurts didn't have a great game today. Jalen Hurts beat Nick McLeod when Nick McLeod came in cold, was covering A.J. Brown. Cordell Flott went out with a groin injury, and they hit a play on 4th down. Kudos to Jalen Hurts and to A.J. Brown for hitting the 40-something yard touchdown. But the reality is, straight up, the Giants played well enough to win that game defensively. Just can't score. And, I asked Wan'Dale Robinson about this last Monday. So you're not going to get many shots at explosives in this league. But like Hurts did with A.J. Brown, when you get a shot, you got to take it and you got to hit it. Point blank, period. Players know in this league, you're going to get 4 or 5 plays in this league to make that will move the chains, that will change field position, and that will put you in the end zone. The Giants haven't done it now 2 weeks in a row. That's a problem. You want to throw blame at the head coach, at the play calling. You want to throw blame at the general manager for allowing Saquon Barkley to be there. Look, this offense would not have been any different with Saquon Barkley here. It wouldn't. Because once the offensive line starts breaking down, then you have problems. And you got to give Saquon Barkley credit for breaking off the runs that he broke off today. And it wasn't a fluke. I mean, he dominated. He had a great game for himself coming back here at MetLife. But the bigger picture right now is what do the Giants do forward? Whether the Giants agree or disagree, there are going to be questions about Tay Banks. His effort back in the Cowboys game against CeeDee Lamb, he was called out by Jerome Henderson. He responded in Seattle. He had another play today. Hurts his scramble, and it looked like he pulled up and was not hustling to go after Hurts. You got to do better than that if you're Tay Banks. You're a second-year player. He's still a young player, but you cannot show that and essentially call your coaches into question because that's what happens. The more you see plays like that, the more you will see questions about whether or not this team is handling the things that they need to handle during the week. And that's the reality of it. And I think that's where we are going forward now. The Giants go to Pittsburgh with big questions. Prime time, Daniel Jones and his record, 1-15, including the playoffs, 1-14, not including the playoffs, the loss in Philly. And the bigger picture is, how does this offense function against a very good Steelers defense with TJ Watt? What is TJ Watt going to do against this offensive line, against Josh Azudu at left tackle? They really have to think about moving Jermaine Illuminor now to left tackle and putting Evan Neal at right tackle. Maybe you look at a Chris Hubbard and see how quickly he can get up to speed. But Azudu struggled today. And the one thing I worry about Azudu is his confidence. He's a very introspective guy. So does he let the struggles today kind of take him out of his game? You need to get him back feeling pretty good about himself, and that didn't happen today. So that's where we're at. I don't know where the Giants go from here. I'm curious to see. I believe that what Dable and Shane are building, you're going to go through some growing pains right now, but you need to be better than this. You can't have a game like this. You can't have 2 games in a row where your offense just doesn't function. Not in this league. Can't do it. You cannot do it. You are not a Group 1 public school, for those of you who follow high school sports in New Jersey. You can't be the small public school going up against Don Bosco Bergen Catholic and go out there and kick a field goal and feel like you were representative of what you're building here with the Giants. They were not representative. Now, I don't know what John Mara is thinking right now. I know he believes in what they're trying to build here with the Giants. But, again, I don't believe jobs will be lost. I don't believe that Brian Dable and Joe Shane all of a sudden, because of today, will now be on the hot seat the remainder of the season. But there is an urgency to prove what you've built here can't be shaken by a couple bad games. And you need to find a way to kind of rebuild that mojo, show that you can actually function and score points in a league where it really comes down to scoring points. Sounds cliche, but the NFL is built on teams that can score points now. Very rarely will you win by playing defense and kicking field goals, and the Giants are a perfect example for that. So that's where we're at. Like I said, the Burns injury is something to really keep an eye on. He is really hurting, but it says a lot. That should be the norm in this league. A guy gets paid. A guy is doing everything he can to stay on the field. I was shocked that Brian Burns stayed on the field late in this game with the way he was walking off that field. You got a player who wants to be an example here, who wants to show this team this is how you get to where you need to get. Look at Dexter Lawrence. It's another guy. This isn't about trading guys. This isn't about, is it about benching guys? It depends. I've got to break down the film just like they do to see if there's more examples of guys who aren't performing. But as we knew in the offseason, it's going to come back to the quarterback. If the quarterback doesn't play well, this team is not playing well. And it's just shining a light on what they already knew. But that doesn't give them the excuse. You can't punt the season. I don't believe they're doing that, but you can't look like you are. And I think that's where they're at right now. And this stadium is going to be empty or filled with fans from other teams for the remainder of the season if they don't find a way here to kind of bring back some of the positivity. They saved themselves in Seattle. And 2 weeks later, season's back on the brink. And that's the reality of it. So appreciate you tuning in to Postgame. For my producer, Paul Wood, go Mets tonight. Hopefully they keep it up and force a Game 7. And as the Yankee fan I am, they want to use as many pitchers as they can, let the Dodgers burn out their bullpen and go to Game 7 and play like 15 innings. Perfectly fine by me. If it's the Mets, we'll see you in the Bronx. If it's the Dodgers, we'll see you out in L.A., but the Yankees are advanced. So if you're a Yankee fan and a Giants fan, take solace in your baseball team, because right now October is not proving great for the New York Giants after that first win in the first weekend of October. So like I said, good luck to the Mets tonight. Again, another happy anniversary to my wife, and we will catch you at some point this week. Appreciate you as always for being all in. We are still all in. 2-5, 5-2. We are here, and we will see if the Giants can turn this thing around. Next week, Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Sends a shiver down your spine if the Giants perform the way they have offensively the last 2 weeks. Everybody have a good night, and we'll catch you this week from over at 1925 Giants Drive with our next All-In broadcast.